Aloha, my beautiful friends. My name is Crystal Ra Laksmi, coming to you from beautiful San Diego today, and welcome to Holistic Abundance Day number 28. I call myself abundance anthropologist, and I believe that each one of us, we have a hidden treasure box inside of us. And when we open this, we will find many amazing talents. And I hope to guide people to those talents and then activate the holistic abundance after they activate their talents, hopes them to also manifest their inner fairy tales into the dreams in this reality on their terms. Welcome to this beautiful day. Thank you so much, everyone who has been along the ride throughout all these days. Everyone who has been, liking, sharing, commenting, being present, asking questions, sharing some of the homework with me, and also subscribe to my different channels. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. It's really amazing to work like this and also get to know myself better, my inner family better, and everyone on the other screen who is also communicating with me. So today's topic is about bad relationships, how this is connected to inner family and also holistic abundance. So before I go to the connections of the overall picture, I will give you a little more general kind of view and then get it all kind of tied together. If you have questions about this topic, please don't hesitate to ask questions now or later if you watch this later. And also, if this is too personal to put into the comments, you can also actually share it via messenger or email. So don't be shy. So when I was looking for my Mr. Right, like 15 years basically, I had so many bad relationships that I actually at one point started to write a book. And I actually finished this manuscript. I've never published it, but after some time I realized that this is not a good book because it had all these bad stories. Even though I kind of like analyzed and went through like what went wrong and what I learned and so on, I understood that I have to redo it. So I redid it in Estonian. And now, after this comes out and gets published in Estonian, I will translate this into English. So it's kind of better, more clear, and also has more tips and tools, and also more of the stories, but kind of told in a different way. So it's very important so that we can inspire and motivate people, not to make them feel bad. So very, very essential. So some of the things which I kind of, when I was thinking about this topic, I did like a little overview, kind of like a container, how it has been for me. And of course, it can be different for each one of you, but I think there is a lot to, kind of get from this. So I think it's going to be a pretty amazing journey. So one of the first things I noticed was that every time I turned, kind of got involved into a bad relationship, was that I wasn't very clear who I was and what I wanted. So I just kind of, jumped into a relationship because of the adventure or excitement or impulses or whatever the reason was. But I wasn't really clear, what and how and so on. So with time, I started to also, notice like different things. So how are all these things connected? And that's, how I came with the 4V system, which we have been going through here several times. And then the 4S system in English, whoops, here. And then, of course, the abundance wheel. So once I started to also kind of go through and situate myself in those little, fractions and systems, I got much more clarity who I am, what I want, and how I want things. So to kind of sum it up, I started to do that self-declaration part, which I've been also telling about in several videos now. So I really recommend for you to sit down and make it very clear what do you want, especially out of relationships too. So that clarity is the base foundation, in order to create different kind of relationships. So very oftentimes I went into relationships with no clear agreements. It was only assumptions, presuming. I assume that when I do this, he will do this, or she will do this, or be like this. And then it was like kind of like a guessing game, like kind of mouse and cat are like playing with each other. And it's not very mature, and also it takes and wastes a lot of time. So I realized after some time that, okay, this is very clear. When I get together with someone and I see there is a potential for something, I actually sit down and say, hey, here's the thing. I feel there is a potential for this and this and this. Would you be interested? And what that does is basically you clear out all that game and waste of time going back and forth and so on. And it's such a relief. But of course, it can be a little direct, especially here in United States. Oftentimes I do things which are never done here because very many things are kept under the surface and not talked about and all of those things. So it's very different culturally. So you have to be kind of careful too, but that way. But it's very important to get clear agreements. So second, after that was basically when I got together. So of course I did all the, exploration, especially the 4V system. So I oftentimes made discoveries that the values of me and the person completely different. Like my first husband I married, I thought we had like very similar values and understanding as well, worldview and viewpoints about life, but came out that no. When I started to do spiritual work and healing and angel therapy and so on, he felt embarrassed that I did something like that. And that was one of the reasons why we also divorced. So you can't really create a life with someone who is not supporting and believing in what you are believing and what you are, And another big thing was needs. I oftentimes didn't talk, verbally what I needed, because from my childhood and also with my inner child, I had learned that in order to get something, I, as a kid, never really got it right away. So I had to figure out my ways to get it. So I wasn't used to a kind of a system where you ask something and you get it like pretty like right away, So it created a different kind of dynamics and, way of functioning. And that's really bad. So when we talk about needs and not expressing your needs, for example, Michael's marriage, previous marriage prior to me, was also one of the things actually which was coming out there, was that maybe they didn't really talk openly, fully about their needs, And then when this goes really long, like 20 years, you can imagine what happens there, People suppress it one time, second time, and then you're just so hidden behind those walls. Your inner family is hidden. You can't like connect with each other properly. So very, very important. And then, of course, as I've told you also about the abundance wheel. So abundance wheel also, when relationships are, stuck, you kind of say that there is a blockage here. So all the other ones, because the energy goes this way, so sexuality will be blocked, your health will be blocked, and then also life missions will be blocked, and then also there will be no abundance, or very, very little abundance. So I kind of started to see the overall picture, how it's all like kind of, connected. And getting back to, the needs, what happens also when people don't express their needs, they actually start to tiptoe around people and kind of avoid confrontation, Yesterday, I had a really interesting experience. I went to the gym and I had a car in front of me. It was early morning, I understand that, but I had 4 stop signs before I got to the gym, and this car didn't stop at any of those stop signs. And I was just imagining what happens if there is like a day traffic and this person doesn't stop. There will be, you know, an accident, and it's like, I don't know if this person does that all the time, or, you know, what's the deal. So I parked my car. I saw this person go into the gym as well. I spotted her, and I knew the American way would have been maybe take the picture of the plate and you know, report it to the police. I, as an Estonian, I was like, okay, I have to take my hands into this and kind of, you know, no tiptoeing, just straight to the thing, because who knows, maybe this like taking action now can actually save someone's life later, you know. So I went to the, you know, dressing room and knocked on her shoulder and said, sorry, excuse me, like, I would like to ask you, like, did you see there were 4 stop signs before you got to the gym? And I noticed that you didn't stop at any of those. And she was like, really like, oh my God, like, what are you talking about? I didn't see any stop signs. It's like, right. So, and I said, maybe you could be a little more mindful, because this may create dangerous situations. So this is the thing, you know, I was willing to confront the person to take care of me, my well-being, as well other, you know, people driving in the traffic. So and in the relationship as well, you know, if you see something is really done bad, you have the right, if you do it, you know, kindly, to talk about it and you know, express it. So very, very important. So another area where I spent, I think, several years is shadows. So I oftentimes attracted, as a healer, men who had not had any connection with their inner family. They were really broken. Their inner woman and child were really broken. And I attracted them in order to start healing them. This was my kind of like way many of the relations kind of started. So, and what happens then is that basically when my inner family wasn't also healed yet, so both of our inner families started to fight. And this is where the shadows start to fight with each other. And basically, none of the relationship is possible, because you have conflicts not only inside your inner family, but the inner family is also having a conflict with the outside person's inner family. And believe me, I've been in relationships for years to kind of try to fix it out and figure it out. But at the time, I wasn't really aware in that detail about the inner family and how it functions and how I can, you know, do that. So that of course didn't work out. So to have a relation where your shadows are having fights with each other and you are mostly on that dark side together is no fun, and no one has to choose that. So it's no good. So another major thing was when people have major fears. I work with so many women all over the world. So one of the main things I see is women are in relationships, in marriages for 20, 30 years, which have not been really good, happy relationships for a very long time, but they are still there because of fear of being alone, fear of how I can manage alone, fear also maybe if that partner is a little violent or a little bad in some ways, what will happen if I try to, you know, get away, about the safety, you know, all of those things. And if there is no outside support system for that woman, it's very hard, if not impossible, for that woman to get out, you know. And sometimes also I even see, like, you know, women who are in their 60s and 70s and they live with their partners as roommates, and they like, oh, we do it for children, or we do it for this and that reason, and they actually block their own life to go on and fulfill it, and also the relationship, live it fully, as well their partners. So if they would separate and go their different ways, they would have a possibility to start a new relationship, both of them, and actually really even enjoy it. But because of that fear, they don't allow themselves to do that as well, their partner, which is really, really sad. So another reason to stay together because of the children is not usually also very good, especially if those partners are not really on good terms anymore. I always say the story of me and my the father of my son going separate ways, because this was the best solution. If we would have stayed together just because of our son, no one would have been happy. But now, his father was living a new happy life, and I was living a new happy life on my terms. So our son got to experience actually two different families, differently functioning, but also happy on their terms. So very, very important on that level. Another huge thing that can be also culturally kind of connected, but many times people are suffering and just tolerating things which shouldn't be tolerated or suffered. This can be expressed mentally, verbally, physically, emotionally. It can be violence, it can be abuse, and sometimes it's something like you're so used to it, you don't even know how it is different, how it is to live differently. So in my life, the time when I was working with the multimillionaire in Mexico, and he started to slowly, as we got to know each other more, he started to not only manipulate with me, but also verbally abuse me. And then as things were going, then came like mental abuse, and as well, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, and then usually at some point also physical abuse and sexual abuse. So when the physical abuse also happened, then I knew that I have to get away from there, because otherwise, we'll go to the next level, which I've experienced and I'm not interested in. So this is the way it goes. And the reason for that is also that if we are not connected to our inner family strongly, all of these things are possible. People can abuse us because we are not connected to our inner family. Once we get connected to our inner family will basically stand up for us and say, no, this is not okay anymore. Stop it, And when you're also in the new energy, you have done the aura transformation and stuff, what happens also is that basically the new energy will also start to protect your own spirit energy, start to protect you, and you will get a very clear guidance, with what kind of people to even, do business and stuff as well. And one of the things also, when people are acting from ego, or they are hypocritic in their ways of being, this will never end up good. And people who want to have relationships like that, or also lead businesses or teams, it will never have sustainable future for it, because it just wouldn't, especially now, all this, new time energy coming to, which loves transparency, clarity, cooperation, and also cooperation in such a way that when people come together, you figure out, okay, my personal goals or targets are this, what are yours, how can we put these together, and how can we work together, so that I can still work on my terms, and then still work with you as well, and you appreciate and respect my terms, so that it will be, I feel like I can grow, I can expand, And I have also had this experience so many times when I have learned new modalities in spiritual world or whatever, ways. It's been so regulated. I've been suppressed down so many times and said, this is not the way to do it. This is the only way we do it. And in the new energy, what's also changing is that if you are connected to your own spirit energy, you know what's right and you know what's going to work and so on. And you can develop those new things which are like kind of coming through you and your life missions, you know. So very, very important to work like that, and also listen to that and follow your true, you know, way. And sometimes it means that, you know, people come to you, they offer like the world to you, but then you understand it's on old or bad, you know, premises, and it will never be sustainable, and it will only do harm in the long run. And it's also going to harm many people along the way the business is done, you know. And I've had businesses now basically over 20 years in 3 or 4 different countries. And I have had so many positive as well negative experiences, and also seen lots of those ego trips and, you know, Hippocratic people and people who come into my life and say like, hey, I would like to do business with you. And then they just go left and basically try to steal everything you have, even your client base and so on, and then make a good face, you know. So I've experienced so much of that because I needed to, so that I could really get back to what we talked about, the 4S system, you know, setting boundaries. I had to learn how to set boundaries, and then all of these things, self-image, self-value, self-confidence, go all through this, you know. And as I did that, what started to happen was that less and less people tried to misabuse me or abuse me, because the energy wasn't there. There was nothing, you know, there wasn't a possibility to throw a hook on me. And even yesterday, I had a little incident happening, and I was like, wow. And usually when those hooks are coming, what happens is basically, it's also the collective consciousness which is trying if they can like really, you know, get you off your balance. And then as you get off your balance, they can really like, you know, come into you energetically and mess up many things. So very good to be, you know, very, very aware about that as well. So when we now bring the inner family into it, so all of these things. So if you start to go through who am I, so you can also ask who are my inner family members. So what is it I want? What is it they want? And during the coaching program, we basically every month we learn what do our inner family members desire, and as we start to give it to them, our universes start to change, because that's how you build, you know, two-way relationships and two-way, you know, communication and so on. So then everything starts to change, and also if they have been, you know, broken, they start to heal, and then they will also be slowly able, you know, to also contribute to you and start to manifest together with you. And as this process, you know, goes, you will also, as a result of it, be able to also manifest holistic abundance. So let's take an example. For example, you know, unclear agreements. So when you go into a relationship and it's not clear what you're doing there and why you are together, or whatever the circumstances are, then your inner family is also very confused. They don't know what's their, you know, purpose. What should they do? Should they be kind of worried? Should they contribute? Should they, you know, like kind of like that. So it's really good to have that clarity for yourself as well, for your inner family. And when you have it like that, and then your other person has also the connection with their inner family, and you start to co-create together, then everything is clear. Energies are flowing both ways, and you have harmony and you have balance, and it's very, very different, you know. And then The individual goals and targets as well, you have to know what are the individual goals and targets for your inner family. So if your inner child is still working through safety issues and feeling okay and trusting and so on, so your inner man and inner woman should take care of the inner child and kind of, look into how can we make, our inner child to feel more safe, So if you go somewhere, maybe it's, locking the doors or whatever it is to make feel your inner child more, safe. So kind of, do it. It's very, very important, because then you don't have the inner blockage, and you can really start to, go for your targets and goals, and you have your inner family on board, and then of course everything will be so much easier. I would also actually recommend to map your inner family's 4V system as well, 4S system, because, for example, if you take your inner child, and your inner child is really wounded and broken, so probably their self-image is really kind of screwed up as well. Self-value is basically non-existent, and there will be no self-confidence for your inner child, and then there will be no setting boundaries for your inner child as well. The same with the inner woman, and the same with the inner man. So if these things are not in place inside of you, the outside can't function as well, And setting boundaries is such a core thing. I call it like, the formula for, happiness in the new time energy. And I have seen it like when people start to tiptoe and like, do things and so on, it doesn't end well. And many years ago, I was pushed into the corner, and I was given an ultimatum. Crystal, you do it our way or you don't do it at all. And knowing the new time energy, I knew that I have to choose, my way, and also the way my energy and my spirit was guiding me. And that's what, when you are in the new energy, this is what you should, follow. No one has a right to say exactly like how everything will be. Of course, there can be guidelines and agreements, but not that they like suppress you and your being and your life missions completely into the box, so to say. And I'm so glad that it happened that way, and I had the courage to say that way. And it was really hard. It took me almost 5 years to really clarify and detox from that experience, because I was so invested in it, and lots of other things were connected to it. But I understood also it was important and necessary, because Wantra, my water therapy, was coming on the side and wanted to be, discovered and developed by me, so that my energy should and could be, focused fully on my own things, so that I could bring forward one other gift inside of me. And this is why I love living in the new time energy, because if you start to go off your track, it will just come and, push you back. And sometimes it feels like so unfair. It's like, oh my God, like, I've worked and I've done so much for this, and then it's just taken away like this, and it's gone, and you're like, wow, what just happened, and it's sometimes hard to figure these things out. Or like the teacher in Mexico, I did the whole, teacher's training for 6 months, and then she just failed my exam, and I had no idea why. I couldn't get my money back. I couldn't take the thing again. And then again, I understood Spirit was telling, Crystal, you have to focus on your things, develop your things, because you have so many gifts to the world. You have to share and you have to focus. So that's why we take those other things away, so that you would focus on those things. And sometimes it's so hard because we are all over the place, So I hope that this overview gave you some other and better examples and ideas how to work with your inner family. And from that also, I would say, very simply put, if you have a really good and healed and connected relationship with your inner family, all of your inner family members, all of your other outside relationships will never be bad again. And this may be a journey. That's why also I have the online coaching program for 4 months. It's actually the minimum what we need to really go deeper and let these processes to kind of unfold. It's like kind of like we create like a container where all of these things get activated and come to the surface like popcorn, and then we look into those like, okay, what's happening here and what's happening here. And the whole program is put together by the New Time energies and guidance and all of my experiences from the whole life, 40 somewhat years plus 20 years of working with people, all of this, it's the essence, it's the cream of all my work throughout this lifetime is all put into this amazing program for 4 months, which has a tendency and a possibility to change you, change your family, inner family, and your holistic abundance and your whole life, your whole future as well. So if you're now more intrigued, please let me know. A new group is gathering now. So we're starting on the 1st of February, 4 months in a row, $250 per month. Let me know if you're interested in that. And I see Pirate is here and Cowboy is here. Aloha. So today's tasks are, if you're thinking back, have you had bad relationships in your life? Then think, like maybe take like 5 bad relationships and then think, why were those relationships bad? So out of all of these things and points which I shared here, what of those points were actually actual and relevant in those relationships for you? And then as you kind of go through it, what happens is that you kind of like observe it and you start to see some patterns. So the second question is, what needs to change? What can you change so that those bad patterns or bad relationships wouldn't happen anymore? And now, if you think of, if you haven't done it yet, that self-declaration, which I've been talking about. So it's like basically every country has, you have a paper which is saying how this country is functioning, what are the rules and agreements and so on. So it's the same, it's just that country is you. So how do I take care of me? What are those like no kind of points, like at least 10 points. So just example and remind you. So one of my first one was when I'm going to meet a married man, I want this person to get me agreement from their partner that I can meet them, or they will bring a divorce paper if they're interested in me and pursuing a relation with me. So that completely changed that. I was always, attracted to men who I was actually kind of like forbidden love or unreachable love or untouchable love. They were kind of there, but they were not there, and they promised to do things, but they never did things. And then I was like kind of like no one, like in a gray zone. I was their rebound, I was their, backup and so on. And I realized, so number 2, one of the things in my list was, I'm no one's backup, I'm no one's rebound. And this happens also oftentimes when people have been married and they separate. They may even end up with their ex again to have a rebound with their ex. And it's very therapeutic oftentimes too. So I realized I'm not those things. I'm a queen and I deserve someone who wants to be with me 100%. So if you are a man, you can say the same thing. I'm a king. I actually deserve someone who will appreciate me 100%. And according to the 4V system is also, suitable and compatible with me, like, values, needs, viewpoints, worldview, and the rest, So think through those 10 points, what those could be. And once you figure out those 10 points for your self-declaration, you will be in such a different space, and also you can notice, how is this all connected to your inner family as an additional, if you would go through the same process with your inner family, with all of those, how they have actually been present in your relations and how it has actually influenced them in a bad or good way. So, and then how you can, fix it up. So, that experience which I had in Mexico, I had to fix it up and I had to heal my inner child for a very long time, because this situation there turned really bad. Not only did this millionaire hit my face, but he was actually trying to start to kill me and approached like a couple of times, trying to get my head and, pull it against the stone pillar there. And secondly, bringing me a knife from the kitchen and saying, okay, so now you're going to kill yourself and, get yourself a hole in the sand, and that's your day. And I was like, okay, so how did I get to this place? So I ignored all the warning signs, which actually my inner woman had been telling me for the last month. And because I was lazy or scared or all of those things together, which I also mentioned before, it didn't happen. So I had to change to take care of me, to take care of my inner family. And once I did it, it reset my whole life. And 1 month later, I met Michael. So this is how things can go. So I hope today was exciting for you. Please watch it, do the homework, share it, become my subscriber. And if you also feel like this would be something amazing to explore, maybe in Hawaii, let me know. All the links and stuff will be in the blog. If you have some additional questions, don't hesitate to ask. And thank you so much for today. And tomorrow we will talk about energy work, inner family, and holistic abundance, one of my favorite topics as well. So will be exciting stories and some tips and tools as always. Mahalo and all the best. Talk to you soon.